Okay. Made it back to the Manish last night, and I'm clean shaven. I can grow a beard. Correction, a mustache and a goatee, which I think I'll actually do sometimes if I can trim it up nice. Oh, I cried in the hot shower. For the hot shower. I missed it that much. I'm not a huge fan of cold showers. I do not understand. I do understand why people do the cold showers and the cold plunges. But man, rough. Never gotten used to that. I don't know if you ever really do get used to it, but anyway, the benefits are profound though. It's taking cold showers every day. At that place, I had been taking cold showers before, trying to get into it, but didn't really take. But I'll keep doing it, see what happens. People say really great things about it, and I always feel amazing afterwards. Anywho, it is raining. I'll show you some better scenery than bars on the window. Although that's nice for protection, I guess. Oh, this place is beautiful. Woke up 4:30 this morning, wrote for a couple hours, went down to the office, got some water. Room temperature, no cold food or drinks during post-dieta, pre-dieta or dieta actually. Post-dieta is 23 days, 10 days of absolute restriction, continued off of everything except for adding the slightest bit of salt to food and like a couple things, but not really noteworthy. Weak coffee, which there is no point. In fact, it's an insult to coffee to drink weak and bland coffee. It needs to be strong, fresh ground, fresh pressed, Peruvian preferred. Costa Rican's not bad. Honduran. Anyway, good coffee. And cream. I like coconut cream since I'm lactose intolerant. And I'm a sucker for a coconut milk latte. Let me tell you, amazing. And I own Roaster's Coffee and Botanical House. Knocks them out of the park. Which I can't wait to get back to New Smyrna. And yeah, I had a really nice dinner last night when we got back here at the hotel with a group of people that came back. There was only two that stayed, Eleanor and Naomi. They're doing the 1 month dieta. Everybody else did the 2 weeks. I like these gazpachos. Man, they're freaking huge. I like the smaller ones better, honestly. They smoke better. Well, I love gazpachos. I've told that about 100 times, but it's true. Best tobacco on the planet, hands down. Super flavorful, super rich, and you can actually take it or leave it. As much as I smoke them when I'm here, I can go hours and hours and hours and not have one and totally fine. Weird. Cigarettes do not act like that. You want one like coming in for a half hour later, like clockwork, which is a very great marketing ploy by chemical companies and whatever. Natural tobacco is where it's at. Yeah, this rain is beautiful. It's been raining all night and all morning. We're coming right to the end of the rainy season. And it's going into fall here now. It's March 1. two, and I have tonight and tomorrow here, and then I will fly back to the States via Latam, which is really nice. It likes to lose your leg, mine anyway. And I'm glad they do, because both times something awesome happened because of it. This time, I met the group of Dieteros from Europe and got to stay at the Malwa family's house at Maestros with Lily and shit. That was amazing. And last time, a year and a half ago, I'm trying to remember what happened that was good about that. It wasn't as spectacular. I mean, it taught me like just to go with the flow and use patience and all that kind of stuff, and like everything was fine. I'll think about it. I'm having a hard time remembering. I know I wrote it down. So much has happened. Yeah, so dinner last night was really, really great. They have a menu of dieta food here, so very supportive of the diet, and very bland, of course, but very nutritious and great. I had pai chi, which is river fish here in the Amazon. It's really delicious. It's a white fish, flaky, a lot like trout or grouper or something like that. I like it a lot, and it's that giant river fish that you see in that River Monster show that looks like, four guys are like carrying it out of a frickin' river, and it'll feed a village, and it's awesome. And so yeah, pai chi or chicken, and then vegetables and stuff like that. I had boiled yuca and steamed vegetables, so as basic as it gets. But man, just a little bit of salt makes all the difference in the world. And there were the new group of people who are coming in. So Ann Moore is here for a night to drop us off and then bring the new group back. The new group consists of 5 people this time, where we have 9. And a super nice people. And just tons of questions. There was a couple guys from the States, and 2 women from Europe, and then a girl, Natalie, which haven't met yet, but she's going to be a facilitator actually now after doing a diet. So that's really inspiring that happens. And I was messing with my phone. I have low battery. So I'd like to meet her. That's super cool, because that's the path that I want to take. I say that like that because I'm not super interested in being a facilitator as an end goal by any means. But if it's, along and a part of the path, then I'm super glad and grateful to do it. It's really awesome work. And the people, they're just super helpful. Like, as the name suggests, they make your life easier while you're there, whatever it happens to be. So they're just there for you, for everything. And in ceremony, out of ceremony, just any questions, any help with, planning logistics, like Jordan booked me the room here. while we had no Wi-Fi, back at the center. And super helpful. Very grateful to him for that. Thank you, Jordan. You're the man. And for about a million reasons. That was clutch. And so, yeah, they help you in the ceremonies and stuff like that, which is really helpful because it's dark, and you're a little wobbly on your feet to get up and go to the bathroom or go up and sit in front of the maestros, and so they'll walk with you, walk you and that kind of thing. So I've had a facilitator just sit there and hold my hand, when I was just like too much towards the end of one ceremony. Not this time. I say that proudly. I took it like a boss, like a freaking champ. Even though it pushed me straight to the edge of wanting to tap out. Anyway, I just surrendered because I want it. I want it that bad. Not only that, I got to that place of it just being overwhelming, too much to handle, and persistent. It's hours of it. It's 5 hours, so it just it wears on you, and you're sitting up the entire time, to where they need to see your chest, and so you're sitting in lotus position for 5 hours, or any way that you can sit up straight. So you can sit up against the back of the wall. I tend not to for some reason. I don't know why it feels like disrespectful or something. I did it a couple times, but it's not. So, but you don't really lay down. I do get an intuition to lay down briefly throughout the ceremony for a minute or two in between the Icaros. But when they're singing the Icaros, you need to be sitting upright and where they can see your chest. Now it is pitch black, but the point is that is what they see your Icaros that they're going to sing. And so the Icaros are very complicated and mysterious issue, or whatever, problem to be solved for the rational, scientific Western mind. Good luck. And there's songs. There's songs that are sung by the maestros, given to them by the plants, that are also a pattern of artwork that you see in all Shipibo art. All the lines and colored pattern display are the visual representation of the Icaro that the maestros are seeing on you, in you, and they read it like a musical score, actually. And they read it from the bottom right up and winding all the way to the top until it's done. And it has a very specific beginning and it has a very definite ending. And it has to come to its completion. And so everybody has their own song, Icaro. And they have many of them, actually, depending on, I believe, I could be wrong on that. I believe, depending on the situation that you're going through at the time, the things in your psyche that are heavy, that need cleared, the this and that and the other, I believe the Icaro can change, depending on what the work specifically during that moment is going to occur. They last about 15 minutes long, each in song, and they are remarkably profound in the way that they remove your energy and remove blockages and create the purges. And you feel it. You feel it as a winding serpentine energy moving up from your root chakra all the way to your crown. And it feels like a sweeping of debris by a higher consciousness or entity, which would be the spirit of ayahuasca. And yeah, God, the divine, you know. But yeah, the spirit of ayahuasca. And so, and during that, it will force and or move the purges. So you can feel like sick all of a sudden, like very nauseous, queasy. You can feel like sweaty. And you can feel like you want to cough, like you're about to cough. And then, but forcing it won't matter. You won't get it out, no matter how hard you try. And just hold it, wait, be with it, and then it naturally comes very effortlessly, actually, and quite easy. It's very nice, and so, and then it's like quick, you know, in that way, usually. The purges can also continue. They can kind of be like continuous throughout the night or throughout the ikaro. Like maybe you burp sort of over and over again. Maybe it starts and you feel maybe a like kind of good and then maybe a tinge of welling of like sadness for some reason, and then all of a sudden you are bawling your eyes out. And yeah, and that's just not me. I mean, that's anybody in the thing, you know. And people are just popping off the entire time, you know, crying, puking, farting, burping, sneezing, just name it, dancing. I mean, name it. Not getting up and dancing. It's not even recommended to get up and move around unless you have to go to the bathroom. But like dancing in like your place, you sit on your mat the whole time. And so you have your space, and it's a nice, comfortable mat, and a pillow and a blanket. You got your puke bucket, and then and you got tissues, and that's what they provide for you. You bring to your mat yourself to the ceremony your agua de florida, your pipe or mapacho if you have it or want it, and the pipe is the whole thing, which I'm not really sure about yet or understand, but it is one of the shamanic tools. And then during the dieta, they encouraged people to have a pipe that were doing the diet because they can connect it with your diet, which I found to be really remarkable and cool in its application when I actually did use it in that way. And you smoke it, but you don't inhale that smoke. You blow it on you, and so and it really calms the energy. It's extremely soothing for some reason, energetically, and so is the agua de florida. It's yeah. If you're tripping too hard, then you can blow the mapacho smoke on you. If you inhale it, you'll get extremely higher, like way high. Like it'll dial up the experience like vastly if you're smoking the mapachos, which I tend to do throughout the whole ceremony. I love mapachos, and I think it's awesome. If the kind of ayahuasca sort of waving off, I'll dial it back up myself with smoking mapacho, but honestly it's not really necessary because the maestros are in control of the whole thing with their icaros and their energy, and they dial up the energy, they dial up your experience up and down throughout the evening, And at the close of the ceremony, back down to like chilling. Like you're like, whoa, I was just so freaking high for like 5 hours, and in a matter of 30 seconds, I'm like back to baseline. Now, you're you're not. You're still in the medicine space. You're still remarkably high as far as things go. Like, but comparatively, it, you feel down. And so, that being said, the medicine works in a different way to where it can come back on, or you can remain very high or in the medicine space for hours into the evening, and it can continue to soar on its own in a way, and then into the next day, um, and the days following, not having ingested ayahuasca, can be having profound visionary experiences, and in the medicine space, which has qualities to it that I've noticed that are like signposts of being in that space. Has a little bit of like a dreamy dizziness quality to it. Dizzy not in a bad way, just sort of like you're kind of kind of in like a trance-like state, which they call the Mariacion, and which is like the word for the description of the intoxication of, which I don't like that word, but the effect of ayahuasca. And so this like dizziness, which sort of feels like you're like this, but it doesn't make you feel dizzy or sick by its own. It just, you're sort of, yeah, in that way. It also, to me, has like a like a palpable like feeling to the air, that it feels like mm, like thick with potential and electricity and energy. Like there's like this crackling in a way, and there's certain feelings in my body that I notice that are like, oh, okay, I'm entering into the medicine space. Like a little bit of lethargy, possibly a little nausea and thing, or kind of sick feeling, which isn't always. It isn't always a sick feeling, but there is such a massive detox happening in pulling all this stuff out of like our cells and our muscles and our bones and everything that are so deeply lodged in there that it feels it pretty much exactly like after you've like gotten like a really like intense long Swedish massage, and like you feel like a little sick for a minute, like, or maybe a couple hours or something after you get a massage, and then like, but then you, because that's all the toxins being released into your body, and then you know you drink water and that, and then you know, and then you feel better than you ever have. And so this happens like on a more like acute scale, to where yeah, like throughout the evening, like let's say for the Ikaro, like maybe during one Ikaro, a portion of it, I would feel like nauseous and like sick or flu-like, and then I would purge in some way, and then feel better than I have in years, in a span of 5 minutes. And so, and also like even like the whole ceremony can even take that kind of an arc of the purging that happens throughout the ceremony, and then in the end, and by the morning or whatever, or afterwards, you feel lighter, newer, freer than you have since you were a child, say. And that's what it feels like to me and others. And so yeah, so just amazing toxic release from the cells of the body of so much heavy metals and pollutants that we get from our environment, and our foods and so forth like that can't be helped no matter how healthy you eat. It's just there. We live in a sick and toxic world, so um, it just is what it is. So, and then also amazing emotional release, right? So like the emotional release of past stored trauma in our personal life, in our generational inherited trauma, collective trauma, um, yeah, ancestral trauma, and um, yeah, trauma of past lifetimes. And so this I didn't realize before going there, which was like a super cool surprise, is that they work on clearing ancestral trauma. And so just imagine, and this is the way that I take it uh, so far, is imagine, so for me, I've dealt with alcoholism in my life personally, um, and drug abuse. So, and have been in and out of recovery and 12-step programs and all that kind of jazz since I was a teenager. And so I'm 39 now. And I've never been able to like get sober for any length of time. And so never more than a year. And so um, regardless, okay, so I come from an Irish family. So my inheritance is 3/4 Irish and 1/4 Welsh. And the Irish, I mean, come on, they love to drink. So they love their whiskey and all that. So, um, and so do so many European lines of descent, right? So alcoholism is really very generally very present, in our lineage, like, and so that is like one thing that gets passed down um, throughout in our genes and in our families and in our and that kind of thing. And there's no blame here, zero blame in any of this at all. Just some reasoning of we inherit things from our ancestral line, and those those things come from hundreds or thousands of years before we were ever even born, that are just in the cards for us, that it's so much more not only likely, or that we, that we'll do those things. And so, and be that way ourselves, despite our best efforts to the contrary. And so, we also come from warring nations, so many do. And so we carry that ancestral lineage to it. We hold, amazing atrocities towards women, children, other societies, from genocide, rape, and torture, throughout the ages. That is in us. We carry that with us, all those things. Now, those might be some more extreme examples, but like, the idea is that those are with us all the time, and they stuck with us. And they actually, the maestro said, guide or like inform like all like our decisions and our life and our path and who we are, like, or how we express who we are. Because who we are is really not that. It's innocent, it's pure, it's new, it's fresh, it's all that. So, but it can't be that when it's laden with all of these inherited energies. And so to be able to clean that stuff and sweep that stuff is, a job. So yeah, I tapped into a lot of stuff about, through my grandma and Poppy, and my grandfather, and like my ancestral line, and that, and like being able to be in a place or in a space now let's say this has been passing down for hundreds of thousands of years. Bang. In the middle of my life, I'm clearing it, right? So, and you can too. And so, as I'm not special, like, it's just, if you want it, whatever, it works. Like, it's not specific to me. And so, uh, anybody can go through this ordeal and gain the results from it in remarkably profound and more profound ways than I have experienced. So, um, that being said, so I'm cutting that, okay? Now what that does is it makes it to where the children I have are not laden with that. Just think about that for a second. They are not going to carry. This is the maestro saying that. The family that I create will be free of that energy, of those energies, so that they can have a new life, unburdened by the past. Man, what a gift, you know? What a gift to myself, for one, because I'm also free of them right now, and there's more work to be done, there's tons of work to be done. You know, it takes years, like, in diet, to, like, 3 to 5 years in diet to really clear your personal and ancestral stuff. You know, it's deep work. There's a lot there. It's layered and it's just deep. And so multifaceted in the whole bit, you know. It's not like a bang, one shot and done. But as you clear them, you are freer and lighter in a way that you weren't before. And then they're gone from you. And they're out. They're purged and cleansed and cleared. So I'm free of those. Children are free of those. Then their children are free of those and so forth. And so, yeah, and then so really, I mean, then it's up to us to not, you know, pick up and put on new traumas to ourselves, you know, and to create more of that. Now, it's impossible not to do that. You can't not do that. Living. Part of life is trauma. It goes hand in hand. They don't exist, like two sides of the same coin. Like, and we're not even just talking emotional trauma, like physical trauma. Like, you can't have a physical body and not get injured in some way, shape, or form living. It's not possible unless you live in a bubble, it's kind of thing. So, like, all of those things are traumas. And so, you know, and like, you know, or breakups, or divorce, or abortions, or miscarriages, or sexual abuse. It doesn't even have to be that extreme. It can be, you know, maybe, you know, that our parents didn't love us in the way that we needed to, or whatever, like, and so you just pick it up, like, living through life. So, but it's a good practice to continually clear those things as they come in your life and as they arise, so they don't lodge themselves into us so deeply. Because the things that we carry from childhood, for instance, are lodged in much more deeply than things I picked up yesterday, right? You know, if I start fucking snorting cocaine last year or whatever, and that, you know, that, like, trauma of the drug abuse in that sense, to me, is still, like, kind of new. Like, I haven't, like, gotten, like, a ton of damage from it yet. But, like, if I was born as a crack baby, sorry for the terminology, but, like, or had, like, been exposed to, like, heavy drug use as a child and then continued that, then that would be lodged extremely more deeply, you know? Now, if I started using cocaine last year, the that being said, it still comes technically from an older trauma down from an ancestral line of substance abuse, right? And so it I'm trying to wrap my head around it as well as we sit here and talk, because it's so like mind blowing to like think of or whatever. But I will say that it also releases like judgment of things, like because I used to be like mad at my parents, like my parents made me alcoholic because they drank so much, or like my family, they're a bunch of Irish drunks, like all this kind of stuff. Like, of course, it was just in my genes. And like, yeah, I was like right in a sense, but like it was like I was like mad about it. Like I was like pissed off at them as if they even had a choice in the matter in the first place. They didn't. They were just under the influence, pun I guess relatable, that they were just, they really had no choice. They didn't have a choice. And so, or that it was so much more likely that they would drink than not drink, that they did. And so, and, uh, and so the amount of like forgiveness on seeing the shit people do in life as being runoff from their own inheritance really like frees the person and you of blaming everybody for your own problems, and like, or like judging them for being a certain way. They're that way because it's their karma to be that way. That's just it. I mean, like they're not in control. If they had autonomy and control, actually, they wouldn't do it. Probably, uh, likely, because then you're living from the spirit, right? And so, and everybody still has a choice. Everybody can make bad choices or whatever, poor life choices, whatever it happens to be, and you know. But regardless, like the human spirit is aligned, and it's good and it's true, and it wants creation and health, light and vibrancy, and naturally, like it aligns. That's what it was born from. This darkness that we have is part of life. You cannot have the one without the other. But there are dark forces, there are dark energies, there are all this darkness in us, in the world, in our ancestry that we carry. And it's heavy energy, and it creates blockages, it creates more trauma, poor lifestyle, abuse of all different kinds, and all the whole scale, all the way up to the extreme of warring, conquering, Hitler type, whatever. So there is no blame, there is no judgment, there's just an understanding that this is the way that it is, and then it's up to you, or me, as the individual, not them, to make the change. That's it. And so, and then pray that they do, because it's so freeing and good. And obviously they know, and it'd be great for them, just like, I know it would be great for me before. I knew it would be great before to stop drinking and using drugs. I've tried. Yeah, I couldn't. And so I always thought something was either wrong with me, wrong with the program, wrong with this, wrong with that. I do have a lot of thoughts about the program, good and critiques. So it's a very balanced view, honestly. And I'll make different videos about my personal experience and opinion, and also information that I've learned related to the efficacy of our approach to drug rehabilitation and uh, also the efficacy of um, the use of indigenous uh, plant healing methods, uh, and all that whole world of everything there. So it's an extremely interesting topic to me, I'm sure to others, because it's been such a huge thing in my life. I mean, I've ruined marriage. Uh, I had a fiance, ruined that, drinking too much. There was more there. Obviously, it takes two to tango. But my side of it, generally speaking, was I've destroyed, lost everything and my health for multiple reasons, but one of the gigantic ones is being a horrendous alcoholic, and and uh, and it that causes more trauma, and so in people, in things, and so yeah, I've experienced extreme loss because of it, as I know most people have, and have created a tremendous amount of hurt and suffering in other people's life because of my addiction. So um, I will say very, very bravely and poignantly and assuredly that I am 100% completely healed from alcohol and drug addiction, no question. And I haven't drank, I'm not counting because, like Ram Dass says, if you're a smoker that quit smoking and it's been 3 years, 2 months, 5 days, and 14 hours, you, you're still just as attached as if you were smoking, if you're thinking about it in that way. So, regardless if you want to hear that or not, people in recovery, because I know I didn't really, and I know that it gets said in there, and it's sort of overlooked because people do know that phrase from Ram Dass, and or that teaching, but it just gets overlooked, and so um, I feel like I'm starting to get in on that tangent, but 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 it's been about 8 months, and I came to ayahuasca last time to heal from terminal illness. I also brought up that I struggled with drug and alcohol addiction. Now, I knew in my mind I wasn't ready to quit drinking then, and I didn't come to heal from drug and alcohol addiction last time. Did not. I wanted to actually gain like control over it, like to where I could take it or leave it if I wanted to. And of course, who wouldn't, you know? And so after that, I didn't drink for a while. Not that long, really, but like a little bit. And actually, not that long. Probably like a couple weeks now that I really think about it. But that was long for me. That was long for me. And so I, yeah, so I pretty much continued drinking. Okay, being honest with myself and you. Pretty much continued drinking and doing drugs for the next year after doing ayahuasca last time. Not quite a year, actually, about 7 months. So I smoke a lot of pot. My memory is not the best all the time, in certain ways, and so it's coming back. Um, the details. Plus, I've had lots of trauma, lots of anesthesia and things like that. My memory is still coming it, for very specific timeline details, specifically. Um, so I continued drinking and using drugs. By the time I was done, and I knew it in every fiber of my being in a way that I'd never known it before. It wasn't a resolve of, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm really going to stop doing it this time. It was, I'm done. Okay. And it was a very low point to get to to even like it brought me down again, or I brought myself down again to, you know, suicidal, ruined everything, lost jobs, broken family relationships, lost, a couple kids because of my fiance at the time got abortions because she didn't want to have kids with such a drunk and stuff. And so yeah, and actually I went to AA again for about 3 weeks, and then realized, I don't really need this. And there's more to it. There's more to the picture of recovery than AA, and AA is very beautiful in so many ways, and it's helped me tremendously. And I'm so proud of my two cousins for just crushing it. They're just like fucking AA warriors, and they're fucking super sober and been sober a long time, like 15, 20 years now, and I couldn't even be more proud of them. I look up to them so tremendously. And they're doing the work. They're doing the work of breaking the ancestral line. Now, from where I sit, they're taking the longer road. They're carrying that heaviness. This isn't me saying this. The maestros say that AA is great. However, it doesn't allow you to shed the heaviness of it. So you keep it. You keep that heaviness of the trauma, of the alcoholic life with you to where it isn't released from you. You get clearer, sober, happier, more spiritual, more productive, no doubt about it. More friends and family, big and vibrant life, no question. Living in the light of God, 100%. My cousin, Katie, is a beacon of light when it comes to God's love for humanity and people, and sitting in her presence is not unlike sitting with Christ, actually. And so, just the sweetest, lightest, amazing person I've ever met in my entire life, and I love her dearly. And she's been such a great teacher to me and has helped me out so much in my life, and I'm tremendously grateful to her and to her brother, John, because of it. And I love John tremendously, so. But we haven't always seen eye to eye, We're like cut from the same cloth, and we're like best friends, man. But like it feels like there's always been like that thing like between us that I've always advocated for, the fact that psychedelics are the way, or like I won't give them up. Like there's a truth there. There's truth there that I've touched, I've seen it, I've experienced it, and I can't unknow it. I can't unexperience it. So, in my experience, psychedelics and plant medicines can very much work to free that heaviness. And so, but the work is still, it's not the same, but it's it's the same by different methods. So yeah, I guess it did turn into a talk about that, but I really want to say that for people that are struggling in recovery, traditional recovery groups, and they have found that, and this is from members of AA that know this, it only has, about 40% efficacy nowadays. Now it had more in the beginning, because it's gotten diluted, it's gotten varied. People, come up with all their own different groups and ideas and how things and ways they should be and so forth like that. But psychologists do find that the people that do best in AA and NA and traditional recovery groups like that are the people that are really good at following direction, like orders, like directions, or like kind of thing, and they have a much like higher chance at success. Now, as I'm saying this, I realize that both of my cousins that are very successful in AA were both in the military, and so there could be a correlation there between, yeah, following a set of orders, being a part of a band, like a group of comrades, and achieving a mission together. So, that their military service could very much have aided there, but that's speculation on my part. And so regardless, so there's 60% of people that are going in and out of these programs and not getting it, and it's told that it's them. It's them, not the program. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Because I wanted it, and I get that alcoholism is an insidious disease. It obviously is. I just went, talked for a while about how, it's like built into us, it's not a choice. So I agree. And I agree with, there's not a lot I don't agree with AA about, honestly. It is a spiritually based program from based on the Bible originally, which like in and of itself, it is a spiritual path. It's now like deemed by the, Supreme Court as to be like its own like kind of like religion in a way, or like spiritual like thing, and it should be. And so and I've had amazing spiritual experiences in AA, and have made really cleaned up my life, made the best friends I could ever have imagined, and became productive, became proud of myself, but always carried that heaviness. And that heaviness, I didn't want to live with anymore. And honestly, I just kept going back to it. And I always thought it was me. So I kept going back to drinking and stuff. I always thought it was me because that's what I was told. And that I can't take psychedelics in AA because they're a drug, which we need to redefine our blanket statement. We cannot call everything from ibuprofen to fucking crack cocaine and heroin a drug. It's too broad. Like no, there needs to be delineations, pockets, all this kind of stuff, to where each different kind and class of drug needs its own classification, representation, and that kind of thing. They're not all the same. They're not all just drugs, And so, because honestly, if that were the case, then I'll just bring up like the age-old, like, which it's not even important, but like, and I don't, it doesn't matter, but like, people are like, well, people in AA drink a shitload of coffee and smoke cigarettes and drink energy drinks. Those are fucking drugs. It is true. There's no reason why people in AA should think that they can determine what drugs are good to take for themselves and what's not. Dude, you can get speeding on some Monsters, energy drinks, or Red Bulls. I don't see much difference, I mean, I drink a shitload of coffee. I don't see any problem with coffee. But anything in excess, right? So like, whatever. So point made, I suppose, and that these are healing plants. These are mind expanders, psychedelics. These are things that have been used for millennia, that only recently showed up onto the scene in the 50s or 60s in the States and in Europe with the psychedelic, revolution. Now we're in the psychedelic renaissance, apparently. But, which is cool. It's a good thing, in my opinion. But, so it's new to us. We don't even know what we're dealing with. It's like, it just like blew up the scene during, the Vietnam War and stuff like that. And gladly it did, in my opinion. And, allowed people to think for themselves, allowed them to make a choice, whether they felt that the status quo was right or wrong, and so break out into a lot more like creativity. I mean, then there was tons of problems that happened in that because of people. They were mixing it with other drugs, they were drinking at the same time, they were forming communes, which some of them were good, some of them not so good, forming cults, also this and that and the other. Also people doing tons of light work, going to India, like Ram Dass, Richard Alpert, you know, there's tons of stuff that happened there, that brought spirituality from the east to the west, generally speaking, and so, but it created like a mass like chaos, in our consciousness, and needed, very needed, and it was messy, and it wasn't like done right essentially in a lot of ways, but because it wasn't rooted or grounded in any form of lineage whatsoever. And so, I mean, I couldn't imagine being in the 50s and taking fucking a high dose LSD experience. You wouldn't even, dude, there's no context for that. There's not a book, not a person you can talk to about the experience you just had. And so people end up in psych wards and everything else like this. They end up feeling crazy, get labeled schizophrenic, get put on medication. And of course the powers that be demonized LSD specifically, horribly. And it got into the cultural milieu of our thinking to where we believe, a lot of our parents believe, and this and that like these things are inherently dangerous or wrong. And so Nixon did a very great, and Reagan did a very great job at at doing that with the war on drugs, and putting out tons and tons of anti psychedelic propaganda and stuff like that, scare tactic type stuff. And people bought it, man, bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I remember here in health class when I was 12 years old or 11 years old. I was in 6th grade, and they gave us the story about how the woman took LSD and jumped out of the window, and then also there's one like a woman took LSD and like put her baby in the oven, and one that like a couple took LSD and like stared at the sun for so long they went blind. I call bullshit on that, because it never sat right with me at 11 years old. Just something about that seemed fishy, and I didn't even know what LSD was. And so, I was like, why would that doesn't make sense? It's something not. It felt like a lie. It felt like a lie. And come to find out, if you do your research on those people, they were on a ton of other stuff at the time that they did those things, which the one about the baby in the oven and the people staring into the sun were never even proven. The one about the woman jumping out the window was proven during her autopsy. She had like Thorazine, alcohol, barbiturates, fucking ludes, she was on it, bro. And like, yeah, also, yeah, maybe she took LSD, but it doesn't even show up. Like, it really, like, well, I'm sure it did in the autopsy or whatever. So, that might have just sort of shot my point a little bit because I'm not super studied on it, that one specifically, but I know that, yes, she had all those things. You can look it up yourself. All those things in her system. So, dude, if I was high and drunk and fucking flipped out on a bunch of shit, I mean, who's to say? And what kind of psychosis did she already have? What kind of person was she? You know what I mean? And this is one instance in anything. So, no, I don't believe that if you take LSD, you're going to jump out of a fucking window. Absolutely not. Because you're more aware. Psychedelics do not intoxicate you and lower your consciousness. They do the opposite. They don't make you make stupid fucking decisions like that. You can see better. You can move better. You can think better. Your consciousness is awakened. right? Unless you're like, I mean, move better. Sometimes it depends on the substance that you take. LSD for sure, you can move better. Lower doses of mushrooms. Some of them do, like ayahuasca and higher dose mushrooms, iboga. They do create a sedentary effect. So at the time, you're not moving better. To make that correction, but speaking is that you are more in your right mind when on a psychedelic than not. It is more likely that you would jump out of a window not on a psychedelic than having taken one. That's for sure. For sure. So, um, you know, anyway. So all that's just bullshit, man. You know, like that. I mean, my friends and I'll put on, smoke weed to that movie Grass documentary. And people are like freaking out. You know, it's funny. It's funny to see like what people believed back then, and like this is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. It's like fucking, no, it ain't. That's your brain. That's your brain on heroin. That's your brain on crack. That's your brain on meth. Yeah, I can attest to that one, 100%. It's worse than fucking frying eggs in the pan. By the way, they needed a better analogy. Sticking fucking spikes in your fucking eyes or some shit like that, and fucking brains oozing out on the fucking ground. You're a zombie. You don't give a shit. Like, you're destroying yourself. Like, I was doing that. So, they should represent this is your brain on drugs, meaning psychedelics, fucking rainbows and fucking unicorns popping out of that bitch. You know what I mean? Like, you fucking floating on a cloud with, Mahatma Gandhi and the Buddha. It's like, you know, speaking to Christ, angel trumpeting, fucking, all that. So, yeah. Um, wow, I can't believe it's the longest video I've ever made. An hour and 1 minute. I love you all. Peace and love. Thank you for listening.